Corporate video, the bread and butter of the filmmaking industry, and arguably the most boring, in my opinion. I mean, I'll still do it. It's a job and it's okay, and sometimes it is fun, but a lot of the time it's pretty boring. Let's talk about how to prep for one. Corporate jobs come in all different shapes and sizes. You could be doing something as simple as a video that's internal, going around to all of the employees of a company, a Christmas video. You could be doing an interview with some overlay. You could be doing internal communications about a product. You could be doing a live event. Either way, you're probably going to be on your own when it comes to working with the camera. So you're going to want to choose something that is kind of easy to use as a single operator and something that's easy to set up by yourself. When you've decided on your camera, it's time to decide on your kit. Now, your kit can vary depending on the options that I just listed earlier about what type of job you're doing. But with corporates, I've found that the best thing to do is to be prepared for pretty much everything going wrong, because something probably will, despite your best efforts to make it not go wrong. So prior to sorting out the camera kit, you're going to want to ask yourself and your client a bunch of questions to work out exactly what they're after. What needs covering? Is it a large room or a small room? Is there a window that you're going to have to compete with, or can you use that window to your advantage? If it's a live event and there's speakers at the event, are they going to be roaming the stage? Do you need to individually lapel those people? Will there be an AV tech on site who will be lapelling them for you anyway and for their own purposes? Can you get an audio feed from them? Is there no AV tech? Do you need to do all of that yourself and mic the stage? Will there be any other footage required? Can you get copies of the slides to edit into your cut so that the client can see those slides clearly? Will there be any other footage required of the day? Do you need cutaways of people interacting during the break? Do you need to do vox pops? Does the client think, or do you think, that they need a second camera angle, thus being more money or maybe another operator? You need to be prepared for every situation that the client throws at you, and these do change very quickly. In fact, they can change on the day, and a lot of people don't realize how long it takes to get certain things done in film. So sometimes you might rock up to a job and the client may say that they want something, but you're not prepared for it because they never asked for it prior to that day. So in those cases, you have to say no, but it's nice to cover all bases with the client beforehand to make sure that you're on the right track and you know exactly what you need. Let's have a little talk about lenses. Now, with lenses, ideally you're going to want a zoom lens or a set of zoom lenses. With zooms, it's something really to consider carefully because it is going to save you a lot of time. When you're working so quickly, especially in events, and you need to make very quick changes, a zoom can be absolutely beneficial. And in terms of focal lengths, that can change as well. It depends on how far away the subject is going to be from your camera. But ideally you want to get the biggest range possible. So you probably look at something on the wider end of the scale, like a 16-35 or a 24-70, and then maybe a 70-200. That would be a good range to start with. And actually that will cover most bases. So really there won't be anything outside of that range that you would need unless there is a very special circumstance where you do need something longer or something extremely wide. 16 is already extremely wide really. So unless you're going like full fisheye, I would just leave it at that. You'll also need to contemplate how many cards you think you're going to use throughout the day. Are you going to have time to do data wrangling throughout the day? You may. If it's an all-day job, you may have time to sit down in the break and quickly do a wrangle, but sometimes you don't. So you will need to have extra cards up your sleeve just in case something goes wrong or you've run out of space. Your audio setup is something to consider very carefully and go over with a fine-tooth comb. From experience, your camera is going to probably have to have XLR ports. It's just easier for the AV technician to put a feed into your camera, so it's always nice to have a camera with an XLR port instead of using anything else. That can be a little bit more difficult to sort out. But as a backup, you're probably going to want to carry a lapel or two with you and maybe a directional mic just in case something goes wrong, because you never know, there may not be an AV tech there that day. You may have been told there'll be one, but there isn't one, and you need to either mic up the speaker or mic up the stage and work it out yourself. Or alternatively, you could be doing an interview situation, you may rock up, and then the client suddenly wants to throw a second person into the interview. It has happened to me in the past, so just be aware that those sort of things do happen, and if you can't achieve something, just let them know. Don't scramble to try and come up with a solution if the solution is not there. But if you're prepared for it, that looks good on your part. Lighting is also something else to strongly consider. Now, this may be completely different. If you're doing an event, usually you won't need lighting, but if you're doing an interview or something inside an office space and you have actual setups to do, I would consider putting together a small compact lighting kit that you can just take with you quite easily, either on a trolley or carry it in. For myself, my setup is actually what I've got set up right here. So I've actually got a Westcott Solix with Apollo orb, and that usually is my key light. And then I have a small LED panel. It's not actually pink. It's a 1x1 daylight balanced LED panel. It's not very good though. It's one of those earlier LED panels, so the skin tones look really bad. I end up just using it as a highlight or a hair light or a backlight or something else, just not on skin tones. And then I also bring a couple of reflectors and some neg, some clamps, some stands, just everything to get away with the bare minimum. And then anything else, that's hired extra. So what do you do to prep before a corporate shoot? So let's go through this real quick because this video could easily be half an hour and I don't want to keep you here way too long. Get all your gear together and set it up on the tripod as you would on the day. Check the camera settings. Make sure it is set up exactly how you want to shoot. If it's 4K, 4K. If it's 1080, 1080. Make sure everything is set up and ready to go because trust me, you're going to want to set up as much as possible the day before so that the bump in is a lot easier. Make sure you cross-reference what you're setting your camera to with the client brief to make sure you are following that brief to the letter. Check the function of the lenses. Make sure that they are clean. Make sure that there are no bumps in the focus or the zoom or anything like that. Make sure everything is working as it should. Format all of the cards and make sure you put a couple in the camera ready to go for the next day. Plug in and test all audio equipment. Check that you're getting a clean level. Make sure that it's coming through correctly through really good headphones. And remember to pack those headphones into your bag. Yes, I've done that before. Do as I say and not as I do. Finally, pack it all down neatly into whatever bag configuration works best for you. Remember that you're probably going to be carrying all of this stuff by yourself, so pack it down really nice. Then you can pop all of the batteries on charge. What I like to do is pop the charger next to the bag and keep the bag open so I know that the batteries need to go back in the bag before I leave, and I don't just leave the batteries in the kitchen or in the lounge room or somewhere completely different to where I've picked up the gear and put it in my car. I also actually like to put my car keys next to the battery charger so that I physically can't leave until I've seen the battery charger. Trust me when I say that each job is going to throw you a different kind of curveball. You're going to rock up and something is going to be completely different to what you had planned. That's why having a basis of everything and having enough things to kind of cover most issues is a good plan. Having spare cables, having spare batteries, having spare cards, making sure that you are covered in case anything goes wrong. And if something does go wrong, that's okay. Lesson learned. Just tell the client at least. Be really upfront with them and make sure that they know that something has happened and, you know, it's your fault. Take responsibility for it and then just move on. If you guys can solve the problem together, that's even better. But otherwise, at least they know. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please remember to give it a big fat thumbs up. And if you would like to see more of my face and learn a little bit more about filmmaking in the process, remember to subscribe and I'll see you later.